Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here again with you today. Thanks for having me back. And so we got a lot to share today. And by the way, last time I was here, it was not Grace Fellowship. So get to preach at a brand new church today. And so kudos on you guys. Proud of you guys for making that big step. So a few things about me. Some of you that were here last time you know, but we do a lot of cowboy work out in the Flint Hills of Kansas. So in the spring and fall, we're very busy. And we get cattle in from all over the country. And we graze them on that good prairie grass. And they'll be there till the fall, and then we gather them all up and ship them out. And so we spend lots and lots of days in the beautiful Flint Hills. And some things about that are some of my favorite things is we have a spring branding and we have a fall branding. And we do everything horseback because we're out on thousands of acres. Some of them you can't even get to on a horse. And so we spend a lot of time doing that. And so a lot of things I'll refer to as things that I think about, like doing that. I've been self-employed for a long time. I enjoy doing cowboy work, and that's a lot of what I do. And so some things I think about, and those of you heard last time, you know I've talked about it before, but I think God and Jesus, I think they were cowboys. You know, it says in the Bible that my father had the cattle on 1,000 hills. I've been over 1,000 hills, and guess what? There's a whole lot of cattle out there. It doesn't say he had 1,000 cattle. He had 1,000 hills full of cattle. That's a lot. Then in Mark 2, whenever Jesus said, he said, hey, go get that unbroke donkey that's still on his mother's side and bring him to me. I'm going to ride him to town. Only a cowboy would take something unbroken and ride it to town. And then you think about in Revelations, what's he coming back on? He's coming back on a white horse. And then I just thought about this one today while we were driving down here. But more proof that Jesus is a cowboy. When you're a cowboy, you don't have a lot of money. You got to have another job. And so if I asked most of you, you would say that Jesus was probably a carpenter. A lot of you would say that. And that's because he was a cowboy and he had to go get a town job to get some money. And so, but yeah, so like I said, whenever we rope out in the Flint Hills, that's one thing I really enjoy. Sometimes we rope and we doctor sick cattle, and sometimes we rope and brand cattle. And so, like they told you about the mill barrel, well, I brought my rope today, and we're going to talk a lot about roping, and because I like roping, and I like visuals. I learn by visuals, and I'd like to share with you by visuals. And so, just some things I think about there. And so, when God's given me a message to share with y'all, or share with anyone, there's two main things that always happen. One, I start to learn a lot. As I start to chase something down, I ask God, hey, what do you want me to talk about? And he always, boom, he throws something in there immediately. I never have a doubt. But as he starts throwing it in there, I start going down all these different rabbit trails, chasing all kinds of stuff I'm learning. And it's super fun because I'm learning a lot of stuff. And he gives me enough stuff that I could probably preach 18 messages out of it. And we're not going to. Don't be scared. And so that's really the fun part. Second thing that happens every single time is God's never given me a sermon that he didn't point out my shortcomings and my sin first. And so a couple things that I jotted down here to think about is, if you don't like something I say today, that's okay, because I didn't like it before you didn't. And so I've already been preached to about it when I was studying. And something else is, if God's pointing at you today, he already pointed at me. If you feel like he's stepping on your toes a little bit, guess what? He already smashed mine. And so we're in this together. And old guy said one time, and a lot of truth to it, when someone's pointing at you, there's 3 fingers pointing back at him. And so I'm sharing with you today for us, not at you or for you. This is for us. And like I said, he already stepped on my toes about it, so now you can enjoy it as well. And so let's pray, and we'll get started here. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day you've given us. Thank you for this wonderful church body. Thank you for my friend Tanner Wiley, Lord, and thank you for the good work he's doing here. And thank you that it's now Grace Fellowship, Lord, and thank you that they took that stand. And help them to keep taking that stand and do your work. And help us today. Help if there's anyone lost in here, Lord. They'll pay attention, Lord, and before they leave, they'll make a decision to accept you. Help the rest of us, Lord. Help me to use the words that you want me to use, and help me to share what you've been teaching me. In your name, amen. So the first verse we're going to jump into is Psalms. Let's see. Nope, sorry. Jump ahead there. We're going to look at Matthew 28, verse 18 to 20. Real simple. If you look here, it says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you, and I am with you always, even unto the end of the world." So let's just back up and look at that very first word, go. We just sang, "Go tell it on a mountain." Good song, but go. You know, I've worked at a lot of different ranches, and whenever the cow boss tells you to do something, he's not interested in talking about it. He's already made a decision. He said, go. And you're supposed to get out there and get it done. You know, your pastor, Pastor Wiley, and I, we met in the military. And we sometimes had the same job, sometimes worked for the same commander. Never, ever did a commander come down and say, "Hey, if you guys feel called today, if you guys feel like doing the mission, go out there and do the mission." Never happened. Ask him next Sunday. Never happened. When the commander gave an order, it was a command. He said, "Hey, this is the mission we're doing. This is what's happening. No discussion. Go do it." And so right here, the very first word, go. And so I don't believe, you know, some things you may be called to be a Sunday school teacher. Pastor Wiley was called to be the pastor. I don't believe we're going to talk today about anything you're called to do. We're going to talk about what you're commanded to do, what I'm commanded to do. And it says go. And so kind of three parts. Some people would refer to this as the Great Commission. And three parts of it. Second part, it talks about getting baptized. We're going to talk briefly on the second and third part, but we're going to focus on the first part. Second part, it says get baptized. And so I like to make up things to make myself remember things. So to me, the three main parts of the Great Commission is you got to win them, you got to wet them, and you got to work them. And so we're going to talk about number 2 and 3 real quick, and then we're going to focus on number 1. Number 2, wet them. So after you're saved, you get baptized. Baptism is a show of faith, and it lets everyone know, hey, I got saved. You know, it's kind of, I wear this wedding ring, because if you notice, I was sitting by a pretty girl over there, and I'm proud to be married to her. And this wedding ring doesn't make me married. I already got married. But this wedding ring, if you see me in town, you see that wedding ring, you say, hey, that guy's married. And so that's a symbol of it, and that's me showing you that, hey, I'm married. And that's what baptism is. Baptism, hey, you know, I got saved. And then briefly, the third part of that is, I say work them, but there's a lot to the Great Commission. We have to teach people, and that's what Pastor Tanner does every Sunday, teaching you to be disciples of Christ, teaching you to follow Christ, teaching you to, you know, live like you ought to live, be who you ought to be. And and then that first part, going back to, you can't do any of that until you're saved. And so it says, go ye therefore and teach all nations. And so that's what we're going to camp out on for a while. We're going to talk about that. So whenever it says go, he wants us to go out and witness, go out and lead people to the Lord. I'm going to show you a few Bible verses here today. You can go through them if you wish. Matthew 9:37 says, "Then saith the Lord to his disciples, the harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few." This is so true. There's a lot of folks needing Jesus, a lot of folks wanting Jesus, and the laborers, they're few. You know, I do a lot of other work, and last year I tried to hire some welders. I do a lot of welding work. You wouldn't believe how hard it is. You may if you're in any business at all, but it's hard to hire people to work. And there's lots of work out there, but the laborers are few. No different whenever we're talking about going and we're talking about salvation. Then we'll jump over here to Proverbs 11, verse 30 here. It says, "The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise." And so if God tells us we're wise for doing something, or unwise, there's a few places in the Bible he tells us we're unwise, makes us think, hey, maybe that's a pretty important thing, you know? And so it's something to think about. So a couple stories. I like to learn about different history of different people and such. But there's a man named Jack Hyles over in Indiana. And he was 14 years old. He led his first soul to Jesus. And he was a guy that he had a speech impediment, and he was very nervous. He was an introvert. He didn't like to talk to people, nothing. They had their soul winning on church after Sunday, and one of the guys said, hey, I don't have someone to go with me. Would you like to go with me? And he's like, no, not really. And they said, well, come on. He said, okay, I'll come on. And so he went with him. There's this football player, and they knocked on his door and told him about Jesus. And he said, Jack, would you like to say anything to him? He said, no, not really. And then he said, well, I'd like you to come to church with me. And the football player said, okay. And he said, well, we go back at 6 o'clock tonight. Come with me. Okay. And he stuttered and stammered through it. And if you ask Jack Hyles, he says, I don't even know what I told the man. I just know that I asked him to come, and he said yes. So that night at church, they sat together. And Jack Hyles, he's passed now, but he was an amazing preacher to listen to. He said he was nervous the whole sermon. He said he didn't even know what the church was about. He knew that, hey, this man's got to get saved, and it's my responsibility. And he knew the Bible said go. And so all of the service, that's all he thought about. Invitation came, and he took him up there, and he said, preacher. And he stuttered, and he tells the story he told the story very well, but he stuttered through it, and he said, preacher, he wants to get saved. And the preacher said, well, that's wonderful news. And he said, show him how. And Jack said that they knelt down there, and he stuttered, and he couldn't hardly put any words together. And he told that big old football player, he said, I don't know how to tell you to be saved. I just know you're supposed to be saved. And that football player said, it's okay. He said, I know how to be saved. He said, I've had people come to my door and witness to me for years. He said, wasn't interested in them. And I never felt like they cared about me. He said, here you were. I know you care about me. He said, I'll tell you what I need to say. And he prayed, and he asked Jesus into his heart. And so I love that story, and I love when he told it. It was pretty awesome. And so that brings me to my rope. You know, you think about a rope, and we're out there in the Flint Hills, and we're roping things, and we throw it. You know, guess what? Sometimes we miss. And you know what we do? We build a new loop, and we throw it again. And I don't want to swing it in here and knock down all your pretty decor and such, but we build a loop, we're swinging again, and we throw it on out there. And you know what? Sometimes you miss, and that's okay. But let me tell you about this. If I leave this rope hanging on my saddle, guess what? It's not a bit of good. It won't do a thing. But whenever I sit there and throw it out, we had a lady last year at our cowboy camp. Every summer we have a cowboy camp. And this lady, she wanted to rope so bad. And she did not have 1 ounce of roping skill in her body. But she had the heart. And she tried, and she tried, and she tried. And she threw that rope. If she threw it once, she threw it 100 times. She threw that rope. Everything she did with that rope was incorrect and wrong. But guess what? Before that cowboy camp was over, she caught a cow. And that was the highlight of her week. You ask her what she ate or what she did or how she did it, she probably can't even tell you what she did that week. But she'll tell you, I roped something. And you know what? She did it wrong in our eyes 1,000 times. But guess what? She caught. And that's a big deal. We can't catch anything sitting on our blessed assurance. We got to get up and go do something. And we got to go. And my pastor growing up, his name was Paul Worley. My grandpa Junior, I wish he was alive today. I miss that man. He's a good man. But he was also, growing up, I found out that prior to me knowing him, he was a pretty honorary man. And he did a lot of things maybe not to be proud of. And whenever preachers come around and witness to him, he was known to run them off, whether that meant with a 2x4 or shotgun or whatever. And they weren't welcome. And we grew up in church, Mom and Dad, and so our mom asked our pastor, and I was probably 10, 11, 12 when all this happened, so I'm telling you from my I'm telling you how I remember it. But our pastor, he said, yeah, I'll go visit with your dad and your grandpa. And so he went there, and he said, hey, Mr. Hunley, he didn't even give him time to chase him off. He said, hey, I pastor at your daughter's church, and I brought you a Bible tract, and I just want you to know I care about you and I care about your soul. And he turned around and left. And so Grandpa didn't even have time to chase him. And our pastor did that several times. He'd go visit him, short, sweet, to the point, I care about your soul. And as time went, my grandpa kind of started liking this guy. And every time that our preacher went there, he would ask him, he'd say, hey, he knew my grandpa's fisherman. He'd go, hey, where's the good fish at? And, I care about your soul. I'm praying for you. Bye. And he'd exit before he got exited. And then one day he wanted to go squirrel hunting. So he came and asked Grandpa about squirrel hunting. And Grandpa told him. And actually, Grandpa was busy, but I remember Grandpa's neighbor, Whitey, he took me and my preacher, and we went squirrel hunting. And when he left, he told Grandpa, I'm praying for your soul. Walked out. And so time went on. I don't know how long, but it was a good couple years, maybe 3 or 4 years. He came and he said, hey, Mr. Hunley, it's time to get saved. And my grandpa said, yes, sir, it is. And he bowed his head, accepted Jesus into his heart. All because Pastor Worley, he'd go. He went. Just like the Bible told him to. He'd go. He'd go. He'd go. You know, he didn't catch the first 5 times he went over to my grandpa's house. Nope. But guess what? He curled that up. He made a new loop. And he threw it again. And he threw it till he caught. And so I appreciate that about Pastor Worley. And I'm happy one day I'm going to see my Papa Jr. again. So good stuff. And so, again, like I said, this was pointing at me long before it pointed at you today. And so I already got this. But the last few months we've been trying to get soul winning started up in our church. And we have some young adults. They're probably age 17 to 22-ish. And good guy, Justin. My good buddy Justin's leading that group. And we work together often. And I said, hey, we got to get soul winning. And the Bible says go. He gave a command. He didn't ask me a question. He said go. And I said, and he's getting after me because I used to go soul winning. That same pastor I told you about, he used to go soul winning with him. And but I haven't been in a while. I said, I have to go soul winning. And I need you to go with me or somebody to go with me. We got to go. I don't want to go talk to these strange people. I don't want to go knock on their door. This isn't who I want to do. But the Bible tells me to go. I said, come on, Justin. We got to do something about it. I said, let's get your youth group together, your young adults. Let's go beat on some doors. Let's go soul winning. And he said, well, we'll probably get some pushback. We'll probably get this. All right, let's do it. And so we went and did it. And it was amazing. These kids are on fire. And they're going out all the time now. And they're passing out Bible tracts. They're witnessing to people. But our first night there, just like it says, the harvest, it's ready. It's there. We don't have to go argue with people and tell them our God's a good God. We don't have to go argue with them that they need to be saved. The people are ready. People are willing. Just like that man that Jack Hiles led to the Lord, that big old football player. He was ready. We went out soul winning and beating on these doors, passed out a couple hundred tracts. We asked this one lady about being saved, and she said, yep, I need that. Guess what? She bowed her head right there, got saved. And that's awesome. Anybody out there? I said she got saved. She's going to heaven. So, you know what? There's a heaven. It's real. My Bible tells me it's real. There's a hell. It also tells me it's real. And guess what? It's about time we wake up and start living like that's true. So, then these young adults, they're doing a great job. They were out visiting at the college there in Warrensburg, and they're a little bit apprehensive. They're a little bit scared too, and that's not what they want to do, but they know what the Bible says. Hey, I got to go do this. They came across this feller, his name's Z, and they said, hey, if you're going to heaven? And he said, I don't know. And he said, but you know what? He said, I just moved here from Texas, and he said, I haven't been doing things right for quite a while. He said, I need to go to church. And they said, well, you're about our age. And they said, we're having dinner at the church as soon as we're done here, and we have a Bible study. We do it every Monday night. And he said, well, when? They said, oh, we'll be there a half hour. He said, okay. He said, I'll be there. Z showed up. He wasn't kidding he'd be there. Z went a couple, 3 weeks. He asked some very good questions. And then Z showed up. And you know what? Z said, hey, he said, this is good stuff. I've been trying to learn it. He said, I need to get saved. And so them young adults led Z to the Lord. And that's awesome. You know, all because they were willing to go. They're nobody special. They're just willing to go. They're willing to follow the command. You know what they did? They threw out that rope. And guess what? They missed 20 times, 30 times, 40 times. Then guess what? They caught OZ. OZ got saved. And so pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. So now we're going to jump over to Ezekiel 3:18 and 19. So this is not such a fun verse, not such fun verses to think about, but here it is. Son of man, I have made thee a watchman into the house. Put on my glasses here. To the house of Israel. Therefore hear the word of my mouth, and give them warning from me. When I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, and thou hast given him not warning, nor speakest to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life. The same wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand. Yet if thou warn the wicked, and he turn not from his wickedness, nor from his wicked ways, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou shalt hast delivered thy soul. What he's saying there is blood's on our hands. He says, hey, I told you to tell him. If you don't tell him, blood's on your hands. Blood's on my hands. And that's real. And that does not excite me. It excites me to do the opposite. It excites me to go, hey, go tell them. I don't want the blood on my hands. He said you should be like a watchman. In those days, whenever they had their towns or villages, the watchman would watch out for evil, for wrongdoing. I told you I relate a lot of things to cowboy life. Late 1800s, when they were doing cattle drives, you'd have 13 men moving 2,000 to 4,000 head of cattle up from Texas, usually into Kansas, into some of the same country that I get to cowboy in. Guess what? At nighttime, one of them became what they called night watch. And Nighthawk is what he was usually referred to. Nighthawk, he got the privilege of staying awake all night after he just worked all day. And he got the privilege of watching for bad things, watching for evil things. And it was his job. He see a coyote or he see, men coming to steal his cattle. His job was to warn them, wake them up. Hey, we got trouble. They go take care of the trouble. And so that's our job. We're supposed to be that watchman. We're supposed to be that nighthawk. There's trouble coming. We need to go warn people of it. So there was a man by the name of D.L. Moody. And D.L. Moody, awesome story. I love learning about some of these guys. But D.L. Moody, he was an old farmer. And as a kid, he dropped out of school in 5th grade. Ran the family farm with his siblings. His dad died when he was 4 years old and of alcohol. And so D.L. Moody had kind of a rough start. And D.L. Moody got to thinking about money. And he wanted to put money on his mind. And so he said, I'm going to make $100,000. That's my goal. And so he had an uncle up in Boston that ran a shoe store. And he said, hey, I wrote him a letter. They didn't have telephones or Facebook Messenger. And he said, hey, can I come work for you? His uncle said, absolutely you can. He said, one rule. He said, you'll be in Sunday school every Sunday or you don't have a job. And he's like, I don't know what Sunday school is, but I want to make some money. I can do that. And so D.L. Moody held up his promise, his end of it. He worked every day, focused on making money, went to Sunday school. A man by the name of Edward Kimball was his Sunday school teacher. And Edward had a passion for his kids. And Edward went down to the shoe store after he'd met D.L. Moody a few times, and he went down there to see about his salvation, see about him getting saved. But guess what? Edward Kimball, a lot like myself, he didn't want to go in that store and just bring up that conversation. And he fought with himself all the way there. And he's like, I know he needs to be saved, but I don't know what's going on in that store. I don't want to walk in there. What if he's busy? What if there's people around? He said he was arguing with himself so much that he walked right by the shoe store and didn't even see it. And then he's like, oh, I have to go in there. So he went in there, talked to D.L. Moody. Guess what? D.L. Moody said, yeah, I need to be saved. He accepted Christ as his Savior. And so, awesome, awesome stuff. Are you guys with me? You sleeping out there? All right. So, there's a lot more about D.L. Moody we're going to talk about. But D.L. Moody, a couple cool facts I learned about him. And he was 17 years old when he got saved. So, and he had his job at the shoe store. Kimball didn't want to go, but he went. Well, if we look into Moody's life, Moody is credited with winning 750,000 souls to Jesus. That's a lot of souls, and all because Sunday school teacher, Mr. Kimball, fought what he needed to fight to do his command, and he went. But it doesn't stop there. And Moody, he led a man by the name of Mr. Meyer to Jesus. Mr. Meyer led Mr. Chapman to Jesus. And I'm sure those two men have done some great things, but I have not studied about them. But Mr. Chapman, he led Billy Sunday to the Lord. Billy Sunday, famous baseball player turned preacher. And guess what here? It says, when on my studies there, it said Billy Sunday is credited with leading over 1.2 million people to Christ. That's a lot of souls. And a lot of souls not going to heaven. Not going to hell. So remember, heaven's real, hell's real. We need to live like it. And these men were living like it. Billy Sunday led a man by the name of Mr. Ham to the Lord, which in turn led a man that you may have heard of, Billy Graham, to the Lord. And Billy Graham, it said that he's had over 3 million people come to Christ because of him. And so I'm not real fast at math, but we can see there's several million people that have came to Christ because a Sunday school teacher said, I don't want to go there, but I'm supposed to. And guess what? He went. And so, yes, these are some great men, and I hope we can be like these great men. But I know we can sure be like Mr. Kimball, because I already feel like him sometimes. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to. Yes, sir, I'm supposed to go. Keep throwing out that rope. Keep throwing out that rope. And so, how do you think that's going to be when Mr. Kimball gets to heaven? I'm sure he led other people to the Lord, but he led D.L. Moody to the Lord, which led. Now we're several million people in, all because he did what he was supposed to do. I find that to be pretty awesome. And, fun fact for you, my church, Bible Baptist Church in New Franklin, Missouri, where I went when I was a kid, my Sunday school teacher led me to the Lord. And it was awesome. And Duke Etherton, big old man, the Duke. Not John Wayne the Duke, but he was still the Duke. And I remember it like it was yesterday. And he took off his wedding band, and he rolled it. And he said, tell me where the beginning or end of that is. I said, well, I can't find it. He said, because there isn't. He said, just like God's love. There's no beginning, no end to it. And I remember that. I got saved as a small child in my Sunday school. I called my dad this week, and I said, hey, Dad. I said, how'd you get saved? And I said, disregard that. I know how you got saved. We all get saved the same. But I said, tell me about it. When? He said, Sunday school, Bible Baptist Church, where we went. And so I thought that was pretty awesome. So Sunday school teachers, that you got a big responsibility. And so keep it up. Keep it up. We're going to look at Acts 8, 26 through 40. And I'm going to go through here and just point out a couple of the highlights here. But this is talking about an Ethiopian eunuch. And a eunuch, he worked for the queen. And he took care of money. He took care of all kinds of stuff for her. Let me find my verse here and we'll read it here. It said, and the angel of the Lord spake unto Philip, saying, arise and go towards the south, unto the way that goeth down from Jerusalem unto Gaza, which is desert. And he arose and went, and behold, a man from Ethiopia, a eunuch, a great authority under, I'd read it Candace, but I heard it's called Kandake, queen of the Ethiopians, who had the charge of all her treasure, and had come to Jerusalem to worship. was returning and sitting in the chariot reading Esaias the prophet, which is Isaiah. If you look in the book of Isaiah, that's what he was reading. So we see Philip, if you do a little backstory on Philip, he was already preaching at a revival. People were getting saved. People were getting baptized. He was already doing God's work. And God said, hey, I need this one man. Go witness to him. And you know what? It says there, and it said when he spoke, he said, arise and go. And what do we see? It said that, and he arose and went. Philip did what he was told to do. And he obeyed. He'd go. Say, yes, sir. You know, he hopped in his pickup and drove down there. No, they didn't have a pickup. But, yep, he hopped in, he went, did what he was supposed to do. And because of that, we see here it says that the Ethiopian eunuch was returning and sitting in his chariot, reading Isaiah. Then the Spirit said unto him, Philip, go near and join thyself to his chariot. So Philip, it said, and Philip ran thither to him and heard him read the prophet Isaiah and said, understanding thou what thou readest? And he said, how can I, except a man should guide me? And he desired Philip that he would come up and sit with him. So here we go. Just like I said, we don't have to argue with people about being saved. God already has them willing. We just need more laborers to go talk to them. And he said, come, sit with me. I said, the place of the scripture which you read was this. He led a sheep to the slaughter like a lamb dumb before his shearer, so opened not his mouth. In his humiliation his judgment was taken away, and who shall declare his generation? For his life is taken from the earth. And the eunuch answered Philip and said, I pray thee, of whom speaketh the prophet this, of himself or of some other man? Philip opened his mouth and began at the same scripture and preached unto him Jesus. And so right there we see that now he starts preaching to him. He starts sharing the word of the Lord with him. Said, and as they went on their way, they came into a certain water. Eunuch said, see here, water, what doth hinder me from being baptized? So here we go. Philip's filling out the Great Commission all at once. You know, he witnessed to him, got him saved, got him baptized, and then it says there that Philip went on preaching and teaching. But if we see that the eunuch, if we study more, he went on down to preaching all the way to Africa. And if you read it in Isaiah there, we'll flip over to 54, verse 1. So a eunuch, if you don't know, a eunuch is a man that was castrated. So he cannot bear any children. But if you read in 54:1 of Isaiah, which I don't believe in coincidences, but the eunuch was reading the book of Isaiah. That's the only book of the Bible he had. Chapter 54 says, sing, O barren. I'd say eunuch was pretty barren. That thou didst not bear, break forth into singing and cry aloud, that thou didst not travail with child. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife, saith the Lord. Right there he's saying, hey, you're out there doing my work. He said, you're out there throwing that rope. Guess what? I'm going to bless you. You're going to have more. You're going to bring more people to me than somebody that had children can bring to me. So we can learn a lot from the eunuch. And the eunuch, or the Ethiopian church, was the second church founded in Christianity. And the Ethiopian eunuch is not credited with any part of that. But if you study, I believe he was a major part of that. I believe he got it going, just like Mr. Kimball got it going with D.L. Moody. And so things to think about there. And so we got to throw our rope. And it doesn't matter if you miss 100 times, go throw your rope. There's so many ways. And I don't like going out knocking on a door. I don't like stopping somebody. But guess what? My Bible tells me to do it. And so it doesn't matter if I like it or not. You know, one thing we've been trying to do, we sure like to have a sonic tea often, especially when it's warm weather. We've been trying to, as we tip them, we give them a Bible tract and let them know. You know, at the restaurant, give them a Bible tract. You know, there's always a way to leave the word. Not to mention how you live your life. You know, it's evident you see people. Not saying we don't mess up and we do wrong from time to time, but it's evident if you're a Christian or not. You know, and so you can teach a lot by leading. Just like Brother Worley, he led my grandpa to the Lord. And my grandpa could tell that this guy was sincere. And this guy wasn't just trying to meet a quota. This guy cared about him. And this guy was living like he cared about him. You know, one last guy here we'll talk about. And, another fun fact about D.L. Moody and Mr. Kimball. Mr. Kimball had some children. One of them by the name of Richard Kimball. Richard, when he was 17 years old, interesting, that's when D.L. Moody got saved, he was at a Moody conference. And after Moody preached, he went up and he said, Mr. Moody, I need to be saved. He said, I know. He said, I've heard this for years and years, but I've never accepted Jesus as my Savior. I need to be saved. And Mr. Moody led him to the Lord right there. And so I said, Mr. Moody led him to the Lord right there. He got saved. Thank you. And but he said, Mr. Moody, you might know my dad. He said, my dad is Mr. Kimball. And so how wonderful is that? I have two boys, a little 8-year-old and a 24-year-old boy. And I know they're both going to be in heaven when they die. And that's a good feeling knowing that, you know. And here Mr. Kimball, I'm sure he taught his son right and wrong and how to be saved, and his son just kind of ignored it, whatever reason, didn't do it. But Mr. Kimball sure made a great change leading Mr. Moody to the Lord. And I think that's awesome that God doesn't forget about us. You know, God says, hey, by the way, you'll get a letter in a few days, because they didn't have a telephone back then, and they didn't have Instagram, but he said he got a letter from his son saying, Dad, I accepted Jesus as my Savior. You know, how awesome would it be to get that letter in the mail? That's pretty awesome. And so, Mr. Spurgeon, he was saved at age of 15. Interesting, it was January 6th. It was the first Sunday of the year. You know, I know the first Sunday won't be till next Sunday, but we're pretty dang close to the first Sunday of the year. And Charles Spurgeon wasn't saved, but he said, you know what? I know I need to go to church. And there we go, the harvest. It's ready. We just got to get out there. He said, I know I need to go to church, and I need to start my new year off right. So he's taking his horse and buggy, and a big snowstorm is there. And he couldn't get to his church. And he saw a little Methodist church here, and he said, well, I'm going to church. I guess I'll pull in here. And so he pulled in there. And as Mr. Spurgeon recollects it, he said there was 12 to 15 people there. So not very many. And the storm was so bad, the preacher couldn't even make it. And so these men sitting there, and they said, well, you know, we all need to start a new year right. We need to, somebody needs to say something. And they didn't really want to, you know. I can relate to that. That's fine. And this man stood up, and he said, well, all right. He said, I'll say something. So this man, Spurgeon, didn't even know his name. I couldn't find his name in anything I read or researched. He said he was a working class man, might have been a tailor, might have been a shoe cobbler. He didn't really know. And but he stood up and he said, all right, I'll talk. And he read Isaiah 45:22, which says, look unto me and be ye saved, all the ends of the earth, for I am God and there is no one else. Spurgeon, he just kind of said it. He said, man, the guy didn't speak very well. He didn't do a very good job at it. He said, but you know what? He got up there and he told the truth. And he said, you need to be saved. And right then and there, Spurgeon accepted Christ as his Savior. And so all because a man, no-name man, just a working class man, said, hey, somebody's got to do this. My Bible says it's got to be me. It's got to be you. It's got to be us. And so he stood up and did it. And so good for that guy. And Spurgeon, it said that he's preached between over 10 million people he's preached to. And, you know, they didn't have the internet. They didn't have live stream. And so he got out there and preached. They said sometimes he'd preach 10 times a week. And that's a lot of preaching. And he would have to belt it out so they could all hear him. And so Spurgeon, and I could not find out how many people he's credited with saving, or he didn't save them, God saved them, but leading them to the Lord. But over 10 million people he preached to, he's got to have a pretty high number. And all because that man was willing to step up and read the Bible to him. Spurgeon is noted to have started over 200 churches. That's a lot of churches. And so we have to get out there. We have to throw that rope. And if we miss, boy, we just got to coil back up, make a new loop, throw it again. And folks, I'm telling you, heaven's real. Hell's real. We got to start living like it. We're not living like it. And I had a slide here. I'll show you one more. I guess I won't show you. Never mind. But I told you, I think about, there we go, Brandon. And so when we're roping, we're branding. And think about this. We're roping people for Jesus. We're putting that Jesus brand on their side. Out in the Flint Hills, lots and lots of cattle from everywhere. And they get mixed up. They go through the wire gaps. They go here, they go there. Only way we know whose cattle is who most of the time is by what brand are they wearing. I'm married because I have this ring on. We know that calf belongs to John Smith because it's got John Smith's brand on it. We know some of you belong to Jesus because you got Jesus' brand on you. And so, be like Philip. Philip, he was out there doing God's will, and he just kept on doing it and kept on doing it. Be like Pastor Paul Worley that went out preaching. And my grandpa's not the only one that he led to the Lord, but that's sure an important one to me. They're all important to somebody, but that's sure an important one to me. Be like Edward Kimball. If he didn't lead anyone else to the Lord but D.L. Moody, I guarantee you God's still going to be, hey, well done, thy good and faithful servant. And so be like the eunuch. If you're here today and you're not saved and you don't know for sure you're going to die and go to heaven or hell, now's the time. Today's the day of salvation. That eunuch said, hey, I need this. Teach me. And then that eunuch got saved. And that eunuch went off rejoicing. And then that eunuch led other people to the Lord. And so we have some good examples in the Bible and in life here who we can be like. And let's be like them. Heaven is real, but so is hell. Not a good place to go. I'm not interested. And so let's live like it. Let's get off our blessed assurance and get out there and tell people. Tell them about it, And there's so many ways. It's as simple. You get all the same junk mail I get, and it's fill out this credit card application. Fill out this. You know what? You can stick a Bible tract in there. It's got a free stamped addressed envelope. You don't even have to talk to anybody. Mail that right back to them. So there's ways. And then how you live your life. And so we're going to have a moment of invitation here. I would encourage you to come. If you're out doing what God told you, you're doing the command, you're winning them, wetting them, and working them, then good for you. Pray for somebody else. If you're here and you're not saved, now's the time to do it. And so, if God spoke to you today, come to the altar. Talk to him about it. Get it fixed. Get it right. If God didn't speak to you today, come to the altar and find out why. And I'm more scared when he didn't speak to me than I am when he spoke to me. At least I know what's coming when he spoke to me. So I'm going to pray at the altar for a few minutes. He's going to play some music. If you need to get something off your heart, come down and pray. If you want me to pray with you, I'll be happy to pray with you. If you need to get saved, tap me on the shoulder, kick me in the ribs, do something. Let's get that taken care of today. Okay? Let's pray. Come pray with me, honey. Bible tells us to go. That's not my words. That's the Bible. And we need to go share. And it also tells us if we're not saved, we're going to die and go to hell. And hard facts. And I don't wish that on anybody. And so if anybody here today is not saved, please, I beg you, take care of that before you leave. You know, a lot of good people in this church be happy to help you. And I'm definitely happy to help you anytime. And so thank you. And please, let's do what the Bible says. Heaven's real, so's hell. Let's start living like it. So let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for letting us live in the greatest country in all the world. Even with all our problems, Lord, we still have a great country. We get the freedom to do this right here. We get the freedom to worship you. We get the freedom to learn about you. We get the freedom to learn about great men in the Bible and in history. So help us to be more like them, Lord. Help us to be like Edward Kimball. Lord, it's a new year. We need a new year resolution, Lord. Help it be that each one of us makes our resolution that we win one soul to you. That's all we need, Lord, one soul. If we all did that, what change would be here in Cole Camp? What change would be in Windsor? Let's win one soul each, Lord. Help us with that. Help this church, Lord, and keep blessing them. Bless Pastor Tanner, Lord, and be on his family, Lord. And Lord, please, I beg you, if anybody here is not saved, Lord, help them do that before they leave. We want them to take care of that for sure. And help us, Lord, think about people in life every day, and let's not have blood on our hands. Let's be the watchman. Let's be the nighthawk. Let's warn them of trouble. Your holy name, amen.